the Fed did QE, and literally looking from the financial crisis to now, the stock market was not moving up until the Fed did QE, despite zero interest rates, despite liquidity programs like TALF. Okay, then the Fed does QE, the stock market finally gets that boost. And then every time it was about to run out, it goes down. But then the Fed comes out and announces something, and it goes back up. So you have to wonder, what is the Fed propping up the stock market? I mean, every time you see things like this, it becomes more apparent that the Fed, I mean, who knows what it's doing, but it just looks like you can't really be clear about who it's propping up, and if it should be propping anybody up.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good point too, right? Because we saw kind of this collective freak out last time when it basically became pretty obvious that the Fed isn't going to do any more quantitative easing, and suddenly, a lot of investors out there looked at the stock market and looked at the economy and said, oh no, we're going to have to do it by ourselves. What do we do now? But one of the other things that I found was interesting in Bernanke's speech here is that he decided to compare the dot-com bubble to the housing bubble. And so he said the explanation of the differences between the two episodes must be that the problems in housing and mortgage markets interacted with deeper vulnerabilities in the financial system in ways that the dot-com bust did not. I mean, can you really compare that to? I feel like it's kind of a no-duh. Sorry, the housing market is much bigger than just the dot-com, bubble in Silicon Valley.
Well, and you're right, and that the dot-com and the housing bubble were both price bubbles, but the housing bubble, unlike the dot-com bubble, was a credit bubble. So when that popped, it was that much more catastrophic. So you're totally right there. You can have a case to be made, though, that the Fed was instrumental in both, because there's an argument that the Fed kept rates too low for too long and letting the dot-com bubble build the way that it did, in the same way that there's so much evidence that the Fed's low interest rate policy created all this liquidity that created the situation that was so conducive to the subprime mortgage crisis and the housing crisis that we saw.
All right, so basically we just saw Ben Bernanke coming out here and doing a lot of defending of the Fed's policies and making a lot of excuses today, is what it seems like to me.
That's just a day in the life of Ben Bernanke these days, where I feel like at least once a week he's out doing PR for the Fed.
He's doing, yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
He's become quite the spokesman. You know, they used to be this secretive organization that nobody really had an eye into, and now suddenly he's all over the place.
Yeah, now it's still secret. Now it's still secretive, but they have a publicist, Ben Bernanke.
There we go. All right, Lauren, thanks.
Thank you.
Okay, it's time for a quick break, but when we